I, on behalf of National Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, welcome you all to the panel discussion on cultural heritage tourism and sustainable development goals as part of the third Giant International Conference on Tourism, Hospitality, and Sustainable Development Goals, a virtual conference scheduled from February 16th to 18th, 2022. This particular conference is organized by the National Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Hyderabad, India, in association with People Are Culture, USA, Wisdom University of Applied Sciences, Latvia, Lusafona University, Portugal, Luxor University, Egypt, Takorodia Technical University, Ghana, the Engineering and Pedagogical College of Dushanbe, Tajikistan, University of Virjan in Iran, College of Tourism and Service of Andijan, Uzbekistan, University of Food Technologies from Bulgaria, Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Hyderabad, Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad, India. Just to give a brief about the institute, NITHM is jointly promoted by the Government of India and the Government of Telangana in the year 2004. Institute endeavors for holistic development of all related sectors coming under the tourism and hospitality through the provision of education, training, research, and consultancy services. NITHM offers master's, bachelor's, and several other training programs in tourism and hospitality and related areas. Coming to the conference, this particular conference is organized by the NITHM in association with about 10 partner institutions with a theme on tourism, hospitality, and sustainable development goals. The aim of the conference is to provide a platform to a wide range of scholars, policymakers, practitioners, and other tourism stakeholders to discuss, debate, and deliberate on the role, issues, and challenges of achieving sustainable development goals through tourism and hospitality. Approaches and practices of sustainable development goals in tourism and hospitality and related fields, and make it more responsible and visible to the public. This will help the researchers across the field to come together and exchange research and innovative ideas among the academic community and practicing entrepreneurs. In this, particularly, culture is considered to be one of the important dimension or a component of sustainable development, which is connected to the several goals. With this background, we thought of having a theme on cultural heritage tourism and sustainable development goals. For this, we have our speakers, well-known and renowned speakers, both in culture, heritage, and related areas. We have Mr. Fergus Maclaren, an international cultural tourism professional. We have Mr. Amitava Bhattacharya from Banglanatak.com, India. And we have Ms. Sanne from Netherlands, representing I Like Local. And we have Komal from World Travel Professional and Curator from India. And we have a Pier, a founder, People Are Culture, and Flip the Lens from USA. Before I invite the discussion, I would like to give a brief background of the speakers and basically a bio. First of all, this particular session is moderated by Pier, who is a founder and editor, People Are Culture from USA. It is a new initiative called Flip the Lens, which aligns the interest of travelers and host destinations through creating a video content together about local culture. Meg has been engaged in telling people stories for more than 30 years, an award-winning professional with a progressive 25 plus years career, blending expertise in writing, editing, interviewing, public relations, and brand building. Meg has a diversified set of credentials, a corporate career as the founding member of PR departments for four major financial service firms, consulting assignments to create a communication platforms, infrastructure for numerous non-profits, and portfolio by lines for media and corporate publications, and memoirs ghost written for private clients. Meg has been the recipient of PR Week's First Place Award for Small Corporate Communications, Team of the Year, and named one of 5 finalists for PR Professionals of the Year. New England Publicity Club's First Place Bell Ringer Award for Public Affairs Campaign, and 2 Organizational Identity Campaign Awards. Bulldoze Bronze Award for Product Company Positioning. This is a brief about Meg Pier. Then we have a speaker, Mr. Fergus Maclaren, is a sustainable tourism and a cultural heritage management professional with over 25 years of experience in Canada, Asia, Africa, with much of his current professional focus involving tourism to World Heritage Sites and implementation of 2030 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. His background includes a broad range of tourism planning, destination management, and community development expertise. His professional experience includes coordinating international meetings and input as the director of the event-funded International Year of Ecotourism, teaching sustainable tourism at Canada's McGill University, and lectures on the subject at post-secondary institutions internationally. He currently serves as the president of International Council on Monuments and Sites, ICAMOS, the International Cultural Tourism Committee, and works in expert and professional capacities for UNESCO, UNWTO, the Organization of World Heritage Cities, the World Monument Fund, the Economic Innovation Institute for Africa, and Heritage and Cultural Society for Africa. Then we have a next speaker, Amitava Bhattacharya, who is based in Kolkata in India. He is an engineer, graduated from IIT Kharagpur, and Chivanjing Gurukul Scholar in Leadership and Excellence from London School of Economics. He is a social entrepreneur with over 32 years of global experience, has formed banglanatak.com in the year 2000, specializing in culture and development. His flagship initiatives, Art for Life, addressing sustainable development goals and social inclusion using ICH, is a success story and has got global recognition and accreditation from UNESCO, UNWTO, and UN ECOSAT. Amitava also started a World Peace Music Festival in Kolkata in the year 2011, and the festival, Sur Jahan, is a destination for music lovers and musicians worldwide. Their unique approach of holding village festival, celebrating the traditional art and culture of the village, has helped marginalized villages to evolve as a cultural tourism destination. Amitav's passion is innovation, social entrepreneurship, and searching for ways to address developmental issues using culture and to work towards global peace. This is a brief about Amitava Bhattacharya. Then we have a Sanne Meijboom. Sanne is a passionate entrepreneur who believes in the idea that organizations needs to make a shift from profit maximization to the right balance in profit making and social and environmental value creation. She recently made it to the list of top 100 inspiring women travel founders by Travel Massive. She is the founder of I Like Local, a travel startup that provides authentic, immersive travel experience to travelers with providing a sustainable source of income for local people and community organizations in developing countries throughout Asia and Africa. Her goal is not only to provide travelers with something authentic and off the tourist trail, but also to make a positive impact at the same time. Like Local was one of the 10 sustainable tourism startups that was awarded a grant from the 2019 Booking.com booster programs, and beginning of the year was announced winner at the United Nations World Tourism Organization's Global Startup Competition. So that's a brief about Sanne. And the last speaker we have in the panel, that is Ms. Komal Dariri. Komal is the founder of Women for World, which was started digitally in September 2020. She has been a part of tourism industry from past 7 years. She became the first female tour leader escort at Delhi Urban Adventure at the age of 19. Having won the UA Guide of the Year award twice, she was promoted to become the business manager with Urban Adventure Interpid India, where she was leading the team in multiple destinations, which involved hiring new talents, training them, sales and business management, social media management, and product creation. Her work was featured in Teen Vogue, Nat Geo, Femina, India Magazine, Hindustan Times newspaper, Dainik Bhaskar, Bangkok Post, to name few. Her vision is to empower and create better opportunities for young generation, especially females, and to create an impact by uplifting local businesses in the country and to fulfill the same. She also, along with 60, founded Women for World with an aim to inspire, empower, and integrate young minds, especially women, to break the societal barrier, travel more, and follow their passion fearlessly. So this is a brief about Komal. So with this, I now request Ms. Pier to take our session and start the panel discussion.
Thank you, Mahendar. On behalf of People, Our Culture, and Flip the Lens, it is a real pleasure to partner with the National Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management to present this conference. And it is a true privilege to moderate this panel of changemakers who are doing exciting and meaningful work in the cultural heritage tourism space. I would like to take just a few minutes to provide some context on cultural heritage tourism and the SDGs from my perspective as an industry observer and as a community tourism advocate. First, a fact. According to a November 2021 study by Google, 86% of tourists see cultural engagement as the decisive factor in their destination choices. Why is that? I'm going to share with you a brief video that encapsulates my own research into how people view culture, and then draw a couple of conclusions about why cultural engagement is such a significant driver of destination choices. So allow me to share this video. The results of my survey tell me two important things. First, that culture is universal and culture is personal. My survey also tells me that it is the yin and the yang of our shared human condition that is so compelling for travelers. They are drawn to what is different, and they are drawn to how they can identify with others. For that reason, more than any other sector in the travel industry, cultural heritage tourism has the potential to align the interests of travelers and host communities. If those interests can be aligned socially and economically, then all of the SDGs can be accomplished. In order to create that alignment, there needs to be innovation in how tourism works. And now, without further ado, our panel is going to share examples of their own work and how they are creating new models for cultural heritage tourism that can be a force in achieving the UN's global goals. And I would now like to turn the program over to Fergus. Fergus?
Namaste, greetings from Canada. Thank you for having the kind invitation for being here, Meg, as well as the National Institute for Tourism and Hospitality Management. And Mahendar, it's a real honor and a privilege to be here and to take part. And thank you as well for showing my star turn on your video. It's always nice to see myself, and that was Highland gear, so that was nice to be in there, but nice to see familiar faces and friends in there as well. So they're always well done. And if you ever have the opportunity, Meg will send you an invite, and I think it's a great opportunity for you to participate at the same time. So that's my promo right there for you. But I'll just I'll share my screen, and let's see. There you go. Okay. So I've got 7 minutes, so I'll try not to talk too fast, but I want at the same time just give you some background on what my presentation about is. The main thing is that, when we're talking about cultural heritage tourism, some of the key issues, particularly with regard to the SDGs, are how do you operationalize it? How do you make a difference using the SDGs? And so one of the things that I've been working on recently with a colleague who is really from Uganda, but has been doing great things here in Canada as well, is working on this new initiative called Girls Run Period. And I'll tell you about it. And it's a different subject and a different approach, but certainly one that really incorporates tangible and intangible cultural heritage tourism, and the SDGs. So, just looking back in the past 20 years, you're seeing a variety of factors that are affecting or supporting different aspects of cultural tourism. For example, on the left, you see the wheel that the United Nations World Tourism Organization, or UNWTO, has developed to show that, tourism connects to all the different facets of the 17 individual SDGs. And we'll get into that a little bit later in terms of the Girls Run Period. They also had the International Declaration on Intangible Cultural Heritage in 2003, touched upon a number of important different facets of culture and its importance and its foundations for individual societies and people who really are vested in these different traditions and knowledge and aspects that really make our world unique and different from the various corners of the earth. There's also the International Year of Sustainable Tourism for Development. They really focused on different aspects of community, ecology, economy, and cultural heritage. And how they all form together to support peace, interaction, and discourse. Certainly something we need in the world right now. And finally, I work as president of the International Cultural Tourism Committee, a body of ICOMOS, which is one of the advisory bodies to the World Heritage Committee. And we're currently updating our charter, the document that you see to the right. And one of the key elements that we try to foster there is the support of intangible and tangible cultural heritage, the sustainable development goals, and how it all works together to support the local communities, their cultural heritage, and their expressions of culture at the same time. So, getting right into my project. This was initiated about a year and a half ago with my colleague Susan. Again, as I mentioned, she was originally from Uganda, but she's based now here in Ottawa. And she's currently, in fact, in Uganda and East Africa to promote and support the main launch of this event that will be taking place in October this year. The idea of Girls Run Period is that it's an intentional series of events leading up to the main event that begins on October 11th to promote the issues surrounding period poverty. Period poverty is one of those things where there's access to menstrual products is not always easy. It's expensive, and there's something that it really can contribute to girls and young women's health and well-being. So this is why there's a focus on this issue through Girls Run Period. So just to start off, Kofi Annan said this statement, and that there's no tool for development more effective than the education of girls. No other policy is as likely to raise economic productivity, lower infant and maternal mortality, improve nutrition, and promote health. So again, a really important number of factors that are there. And so, because it is a unique and not always easily discussed issue, there's an intent to really try and find a way to open it up for a broader audience that really applied a lens of cultural tourism and intangible cultural heritage as well, in order to both educate and address some of the issues around period poverty, and to also serve as a catalyst to raise important issues related to girls' health, well-being, and opportunities, as per the quote that we just saw from Kofi Annan. And at the same time, where we are hosting these runs on an annual basis, the intention is also to do two things. One is to highlight those destinations along these rolling marathon routes. We'll talk about that a bit shortly. But at the same time, also to show, these are the opportunities to celebrate some of the different aspects of intangible cultural heritage. And in the first country that's going to be hosting these runs, Kenya, running is very much, long distance running in particular, is very much part of the intangible cultural heritage of the region where this will be hosted, as well as the country itself. So one of the key things about the annual Girls Run events are that it supports a range of SDGs. Some of them are obvious in terms of no poverty, education, gender equality, good health and well-being. There's also the ones that are tied to sustainable tourism, like SDG 8 and SDG 12, where you have decent work and economic growth, and also responsible consumption and production. Those both deal with sustainable tourism. And the cultural target, 11.4, cultural heritage, is based under, of course, sustainable cities and communities, SDG 11. So the intention is not just to operationalize, the intent is to operationalize the SDGs, as well as really focus on those tangible and intangible cultural heritage issues that both support tourism, but also local communities, and most importantly, the young women and girls who live there, to give them those opportunities that they would otherwise not have because of access to menstrual health products. The route this year will be through the Great Rift Valley. You see on the map here, Eldoret, and it goes all the way down to the Equator Center. You actually stand on the equator, and it's a 77, 80-kilometer run. And the idea is that the run would start on October 11th and go for 5 days. Each day would be would stop, have a workshop, discuss the issues related to period poverty, but also to answer the other question, which stems from this, to the SDGs that you just saw. And that is a question, okay, if we've started to improve the circumstances and trying to improve the health and well-being of girls and young women, then what next? And that what next is to discuss tourism and economic opportunities within the visitor economy. So this is both not only addressing the issues on the ground, but also to say, there are further opportunities to both have more longer-term sustainable forms of economic development that also integrate important parts and facets of tangible and intangible cultural heritage. So just as my second last slide, Kenya, which is named Africa's leading destination for 2020, will be the host country, as I mentioned. It's the birthplace of many of the globe's greatest long-distance runners. In fact, Eliud Kipchoge, who's been the Olympic marathon champion for the past 2 Olympics, is a tourism ambassador for Kenya. And so it's very well known for its intangible cultural heritage in running. And it also is a healthy, active form of living that is really important to the residents of the country, but also other parts of the region and other parts of Africa as well. And it serves as a really good platform to celebrate and commemorate the different aspects related to supporting the health and well-being of girls and young women as well. So finally, the long-term goal, vision of the Girls Run is to establish a number of communities across Africa, apply these different rolling marathons to both celebrate these destinations and also serve as an opportunity to promote aspects and issues around period poverty, and to also concentrate on those elements that touch on health, wellness, well-being, and education to support more sustainable livelihoods across different parts of the continent. So please feel free to join us on the journey. We're fortunate to have a very big sponsor in Rubis, which is a service station operation based in France that is located across the continent and particularly East Africa. And we are also partnering with the Kenya National Convention Visitors Bureau, Canadian running organization called Run for Life, and also the Baringo County, where the Great Rift Valley is. And I think that, the key takeaway from this is that it's one thing to have the SDGs, and it's one thing to understand what they are and what their intention is, but it's another thing to actually operationalize them, and more importantly, to see where the patterns of connection and interaction are to sustain the local communities that they're trying to benefit at the same time. So thank you. Hopefully I got under the 7 minutes.
Thank you, Fergus. That's a wonderful example of innovation founded in the best interests of the community and in intangible cultural heritage. That was really food for thought, I think, for participants to consider how they can develop similar programs of their own based on their own community strengths and needs. And now we will go to Amitava. Amitava?
Yes. Let me first thank all of you for giving me this opportunity and to share this experience of our journey in rural India, because that's what we work on. A marginalized village, why it is marginalized, why it is poor. So when I first started interacting, did my little bit of research, observations way back, about 20 years back. And then I found out that, the villages which don't have agriculture, villages which don't have industry are poor. They are marginalized. But the reverse, the villages which are good in agriculture or in industry, they are fantastic. So the question came to me then, what is causing this? Is it lack of skill is causing this poverty and is causing the marginalization? So from there, my experiment started. I still call it social experiment. And initially started with 3,200 people. And after 2004, we started with this work called, and our methodology that time I named it as Art for Livelihood. But in 2009 to 11, after working on that, we actually realized that it is more than livelihood. It is life. So I renamed it as Art for Life. Now, Art for Life basically has two aspects. One is it's a skill, and a traditional art and culture is there in that village, no external. And here it is an opportunity to see. Can you all see the screen? You can?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So culture, it's a traditional art and culture, which is there as a skill. It's their passion, but they were not considering it as their profession. So catalysts like us only can tweak that much. And we also wanted to find out what is their heritage element in that. That is it something a big thing, or is it something, a skill that we don't have? Yes. Like Bhattacharya artist in Pingla, West Midnapur in Bengal, they know how to make colors from vegetables. Now, me and you, we don't know. So that's a skill. So, so what is that skill? And then from that skill, can we do micro enterprise, which is owned by them, rather than again, an educated person like us going there and developing it. So this is how we started. And so we ensured that, this gives them economic benefit as well as it brings pride. Because the identity, if the identity is nourished, then it gives them recognition and pride. And recognition leads to social inclusion, and pride leads to safeguarding, and also creates aspiration amongst the next generation. Now, this is a very, very important part, because unless that happens, it's very difficult to continue that. So safeguarding art through heritage, and then rebranding the village as cultural hubs, and capacity building and direct market linkage for the artist. These are the three pillars. And what we see now, Village Festival is actually a big element where it has created the rebranding. And local stakeholders have started going, they are involved, engaging tourists to heritage activities. So there will not be any dress like a turban or a new thing, nothing like that. Let them lead normal life. It is the skill for which travelers, the visitors, go there. And this is how it all started. 2010 onwards, I started work on 2004, but 2010 onwards, the people started going to these villages. And now about 100,000 people visit to these villages every year. Most of them are daytime visitors. Why they go? They go for fun. They go for educating themselves. They go to experience tourism. I think this is very, very important, that how tourism can actually lead to this. Then everywhere, Government of West Bengal has created a folk art center, and we have done the community museum. Community museum is a very important part, because a museum through the eyes of the artists, because either they are handicraft or they are folk performing artists. So through the artist eyes, something needs to be done, rather than an imposing of an urban thoughts. So that's why it has gone up like this. Even as we speak, every day, there are universities worldwide who are actually getting educated from this quote unquote illiterate artists. And because they know they know something which we do not know. And they are getting that recognition. And also it is creating an economic benefit. Ensuring artist rights and promotion is very important in tourism too. Because when we promote something, we must ensure the geographical indication, then UNESCO's ICH list of humanity, and the craft mark type of things, ensuring artist rights, and CC by NC. These all should be, so that anyone does a photography or a video photography must ensure that these rights are ensured. Because when the bloggers and the photographers, they write something, it's a big recognition, but it must benefit them. And benefit did not be financially always, but it is by ensuring that their name goes, name of the village goes, and their dignity increases. So, and digital communication, these days, we are pre-internet era. We started our IT career in pre-internet. 1993, when I was in Silicon Valley, US, that time there was no internet. And so, it came later on. So I always say I never went to Silicon Valley. I returned from Silicon Valley. So, that was a big fun. But now with internet, digital communication, it's a big thing. Let the community tell their stories. World is interested in that. I think the tourism developers, tourism promoters can actually encourage that more. It doesn't matter whether their English is very good or not, but ensuring the communication goes away. Reaching out globally, whenever we get opportunity, we take them out to different places, and that helps, including, you see, in ITB Berlin. And I'm so happy that the Secretary General UNWTO came himself to inaugurate the Sustainable Travel Pavilion. And you can see, I have never written banglanatak.com, nothing like that. I'm not promoting myself. I'm not here. But important is, it is a sustainable travel. And this is the last slide that I will be showing here, is basically just to show, because there are many planners and the students who are tomorrow's planners. When you start working in a village, first few years is a trust building period. And then comes the village festival. And then you see it goes up, both economy as well as recognition. The investment into the soft investment comes down. So whatever you do it today, tomorrow is not the same. Hardware investment need not be done on the day one. It can be done little later. But before that, the community mobilization is very important. So this is how ICH can play a very important role in the SDG achieving. What are the SDGs that we have achieved? Is basically 1, 5, 6, 8, 11. And this we have achieved. And how it has been achieved, I shown you the approach and methodology, what we call as Art for Life. In the chat, I will be sharing a small video so that people can see it, how these villages look like. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amitava. You are a tremendous power of example, and you've been a change maker for more than 20 years. So your views are really important, and you're linking well-being, not just physically, but psychologically and emotionally to intangible cultural heritage, and hopefully giving food for thought to participants about how they might do something similar in their own backyards. And now we'll turn over the program to Sanne, who will share with us her work in aligning the interests of communities with tourists.
Thank you so much, Meg. It's really a privilege to be here today and share a bit more about like what we are up to and what we our learnings and what we are currently doing. So I will quickly share my screen. Yes. Thanks. So I really believe that the time has come to rebuild the tourism industry for the greater good. So my name is Sanne Meijboom. I'm the founder and CEO of I Like Local, a purpose-driven travel platform that connects local communities and travelers through immersive travel experiences that create economic and social inclusiveness. So an inner curiosity to people from different cultures and a drive to making a global difference brought me to this path. This has probably been a very common sight pre-pandemic. Since the 80s, a lot of focus has been put on economic growth, on profit making, creating shareholder value, all to create more wealth. So this was also reflected in the tourism industry as like travel was more and more stimulated with some of the problems like over tourism. The travel industry was growing pre-pandemic with 4% a year, and in some parts of the world even more. So you would expect that this more growth would also result in more wealth and that everyone and everything would really benefit from it. But this hasn't really been the case. So with its focus on unlimited growth and profit making, it resulted in overdevelopment and over tourism. Somehow my sheet is not going further. Let's see. Yes, in overdevelopment and over tourism, in pollution, in tourism leakage, in environmental destruction, but also with the rise of the digital era, you saw problems rising like of externalizing the cost to users, at disregard of privacy and workers' rights, monetization of user data, and a small group benefiting. So actually, the people who created most of the value of these platforms were not really benefiting. They hardly had a say in the direction of a company or what it would mean for them. So to what extent can we then really say that this is wealth, that this is what we all like profit from? Yes, it results indeed in more profit, but just for a few, and it has massive and destructive side effects. So with I Like Local, I really want to contribute to a more equitable and fair tourism industry. So via our travel platform, we want not only to provide really immersive and authentic travel experience to travelers offered by local people, off the beaten path, but at the same time also really unlock the travel market to local communities who were excluded from the travel market due to a lack of internet access or English language skills and education. And the pandemic really exposed the previous problems even more. And I believe that we are now at a point that we really have a decision to change that direction, and that we really need to look at the core. So what is causing all these problems? Why are communities not benefiting? What causes tourism leakage? And I really believe that we need to look at the base of like how our economic system has been built on. And so although I Like Local already took like a more sustainable approach since the beginning, I wanted to go a step further and really look at a model that could create a more value for all, for everybody who was participating in that wealth creation. So I envisioned a platform in which that was governed and owned by its members. So varying from communities and the hosts to our clients and partners, to anyone who wanted to make this, who want to contribute to the shift, and who really want to own and decide the future of travel. So what does it exactly mean? So in our case, we say, well, instead of like us as a company or like a small group of shareholders really having the control over a company and making decisions that are maybe not really in favor of the larger goods or the environment, we say, well, we put the power and the governance also in the hands of the people who are really contributed to the value of the growth that our company is creating. So therefore, I Like Local is owned and governed by its community. So that means that profit that is created will be fairly shared once profitable. Voting rights and economic rights are split so that I Like Local's mission is never at stake. So what often happens when a company is governed by a small group of shareholders and maybe wants to take a direction that is maybe not making as much profit as it could be, that shareholders like force a company to take a different direction. So that's something that we want to protect. So every stakeholder, I believe, should have a seat in the boards to really have that kind of vote. And we have put in place an independent institution that oversees that no change or decisions will undermine our company's mission. So for example, just to give one example, that like a salary of a board member can never be 3 times more than the average salary of an employee, or that we never exit the company in order to create more profit for just a small group. So these are some of the things that we wanted to establish to create a more fairer economic model in which everybody who contributes to the growth of a company also can benefits of that growth. And in this way, you create like a kind of community and ecosystem where people are really engaged, where they are empowered, where they are motivated to make this movement better. And so it's much more in line with envisioning like a true sharing economy, rather than looking from a point of separation and competition. And I believe that this whole pandemic has now really shown that we need to look at our various factors in how we are currently running our businesses, how we are living, that we need to take decisions that are in favor of the larger good, because just focusing on unlimited growth in a finite world is not something that is sustainable in the long term. So it's time to own and decide our future of travel, to roll up our sleeves and reimagine companies that will be better serving ourselves, our stakeholders, our families, our communities, and our planet, and our economy. So let's make this change together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanne. That is a terrific example of affecting real change in terms of how companies interact with the communities that they are representing. So it's great to learn about your innovations. And now we will turn the program over to Komal. Thank you, Komal.
Hi, Meg. Thank you so much. So first of all, before I start, I just want to say I'm so thankful that I'm here with the panel of such inspiring people. And I'm already inspired hearing you all. And I would be implementing so many of your ideas and so many things you guys are doing in Women for World for sure. And it would be benefiting all of us together. So thank you so much, Meg, NIHTM, and everybody for this amazing opportunity. And I'm so thankful that I'm sharing this platform with amazing, inspiring people. And now let's talk about Women for World. So before I start talking about Women for World and I start sharing a small case study of why I am here, why are we, just even discussing about this subject, I just want to share a little bit about myself. So my name is Komal, and I've been working in the industry from past 8 years, as mentioned by Mahendar already. So these 8 years, just want to share 1 minute of my journey that I think would inspire you one way or the other. I was 19 years old when I entered into the tourism industry. And a 19-year-old girl was looking for a job, and she was actually wanting to create her financial independence. And I did my journalism and communication, and I just wanted to find a place where I can polish my communication skills. That was my agenda. And these 8 years have completely transformed my life to a girl who was just looking for a job now, to a girl who's trying to motivate other girls to find a place in the industry, to change their mindset about the industry, to going to their parents and talking about the industry, to transforming the dynamics of the industry, to making the industry more inclusive, to creating more acceptance in the industry. And this has all happened because of two reasons. One are the travelers whom I met. So I'm so thankful to all the people whom I've met in the entire 8 years, because the culture, their lifestyle, their mindset inspired me to be myself. And this is what travel does. This is the impact of travel industry on a young person or a young individual who doesn't even know about travel. So this is what changed my entire life. And this is what helped me, along with my colleague Srishti, to create a platform which is called Women for World. So as already informed by Mahendra, that Women for World was started in 2020 digitally. So I'm just sharing my screen. Just hold on. I hope you guys can see the screen. And I hope you all can. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the heads up. Okay, so great, guys. So just want to share, why did we start Women for World? So last year in the pandemic, as we all saw in 2020 that the pandemic started, and when it started, it kind of disrupted the entire tourism industry, from the students to the people working in the industry to every single person. I still remember the day it was announced that the visas are cancelled, borders are closed. There was an uncertainty in the air in the entire industry, and people had to face the circumstances of that uncertainty. That led to a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of pressure in the mind of students. I still remember I was talking to the students on call. I was getting calls from the students, and they were asking, should we even do tourism? Like, there's a future of tourism or not? And that actually made me question my existence. And I asked myself this question, that what is my existence in this industry? Would I always be staying a manager who's working and trying to develop new products? Or do I want to do something which can motivate other people and empower them to find the best resources and to get the best opportunities in the industry? So that day, Women for World was born, and Women for World was born on a cup of coffee. I love coffee, everyone, though I'm an Indian and we love chai, but yes, I am a preacher of coffee. And I was sitting on a cup of coffee and I was discussing the impact of tourism, especially on the women in the industry, small communities, local villages, local homestays, and how can we, as people working in this industry, can change that. And that is when we decided to inspire the younger generation of this industry, the younger generation of our country, to empower themselves with the resources so that they can integrate those resources together and build a kind of future for the tourism industry where there's no looking back. And this is why Women for World was originated, or this is how we gave birth to Women for World. Now, this name itself is a big question mark. I still remember, guys, I just want to share a very funny story, that when I started Women for World, I started it in 2020 September, 3 months. I was trying to promote it everywhere. And I used to get questions by the people, do you know, this name cannot help you survive in the industry in India because Women for World is an anti-men name and nobody would like to travel with you. Now, this was the question which was sent to me by a lot of travel companies in India, that why do you want to name your company and tell people that it is being run by women? What's the big deal? And my answer was, this is the big deal. This question is the big deal. Like, why you guys are raising this question? Why is it not normal for you guys? So creating acceptance started from this name itself. I always say this name was enough for me to create awareness and to bring kind of an acceptance in the industry that this is a company which is being run by women for everyone. And you can come and travel with us. So this is why Women for World was started. And now I want to share what is the vision behind Women for World. Though it's been 1 year of the journey, and this 1 year has been very challenging, lots of highs, lots of lows, lots of pandemic turns, so many waves of the pandemic coming and crushing us down, and then we standing up again and not giving up. These were the times when we realized that how, if you have a vision in the brand, as you all are planning to be the future entrepreneurs or whatever you want to do in your life, if you're building a brand, if you're building a community, if you're planning to build a community and you plan your vision on the community, then there's no looking back, because your vision would motivate you to keep going and keep looking forward. Here, our vision is to inspire and empower young minds, and especially women, to travel fearlessly and safely in the country. Sadly, when we talk about India, we see that how some women face a lot of challenges when they travel solo in the country. And to change that narrative and to make travel more accessible, to make travel more sustainable, and to make travel memorable for all, we started with the vision that we are going to create experiences that would be high and rich, that would be sustainable, that would include a lot of communities, and that would educate people so that they can become responsible travelers. And this started from India itself. It is said that when an Indian travel, when a person from India travel, they don't care about sustainability or they don't care about responsible tourism. I think this is a big myth, because I have seen the younger generation planning on travel, as Meg said, on the behalf of culture. They want to explore, they want to experience new things. As Amitava sir mentioned about how people are going into the villages and want to experience that life with the local people. This is what travel means now. And this is what our vision is. We wanted to create a community that is inclusive. We wanted to create a community of change makers. And I am so proud to share that we are trying to build that community, because if you're building a company, the company would build a sustainable business. But if you're building a community, the community is building the future of the travel. The community is building future change makers. And that is why we say that we are a travel community and not a travel brand. And that is what our vision is, that we want to keep on inspiring young minds so that they can bring the necessary change, and we can actually make travel more sustainable in our country and focus on the communities that need help, focus on the people that needs guidance, and create more inclusive industry with people getting jobs not only on their gender, but getting jobs on their qualifications. So these are some of the agendas and values on which Women for World stands. And every decision we take in Women for World is based on these agendas. And I want to put the agenda one by one in front of you all. So the first agenda which we have, that is connected to SDG 11, that is communities upliftment. When we started Women for World, and when I started working in the travel and tourism industry, I saw a great scope on how you can benefit a particular community if you try to connect it with tourism, and how if you keep their culture intact and you keep their respect intact, they would be happy to get involved into building a great experience for your travelers. This is what we did on the second tour of Women for World that we ran in February 2020. And we took our travelers to Javai. The picture you can see on the left is from Javai. And Javai is a small village, which is a hidden gem of Rajasthan, everyone. Little do people know about Javai that it has a lot of leopards, and the leopards and humans stay happily together. So when I heard about that village, I was astonished and shocked, and I was really excited to go there. And I met this young lady whom you can see in the middle, who hosted my group in her home. We ate the food that was made by the ladies in the villages. We went into the village and the village people opened their arms and welcomed the Indian people and the young people and showed them their culture, their heritage, and every single thing. And this is what we need to bring. We need to bring experiences that are rich. We need to bring experiences that are educational. And we need to bring experiences that involve the local people so that the benefit and the money can directly help and serve the local people. And that is why I believe that community upliftment is one of the most important part of tourism, and it can help benefit the tourism in a longer run. When you talk about post-pandemic tourism, this can bring a great added value to your tours, and this can be a great plus to your brand or your community. Now moving on to other things is empowering young minds. Another thing which we do is workshops. We plan on bringing workshops that have practical knowledge. So generally, when you go to the universities, you learn theoretical knowledge. You meet people who are inspiring, who empower you with a lot of knowledge. But when you talk about practical knowledge in India, students sometimes don't even know what they want to do after they end their tourism career, after they go out from their colleges. And that is why we bring workshops that empower young mind with the skills and knowledge so that they know what is the next step they want to take in the industry, which actually aligns with quality education. Workshops that can empower them with the skills so that when they enter into the industry, they're all set to move ahead. And this is what we are trying to do with Women for World. The third pillar of Women for World is social equality and acceptance that relates to SDG 5, that is gender equality. I have been a great advocate of gender equality, and I feel very proud to say this because when I started, I was the first female guide and I was sitting amongst 10 males who were literally laughing on me that, why are you a guide? I faced a lot of challenges in these 7 years where people asked me several questions, cultural barriers, social barriers, industry barriers. But one of the things which I personally felt was done right was me entering into the industry and then motivating other girls to get into the industry. So I feel very lucky and very honored to say that we were awarded Ek Pehel Award by the IITTM college, which was given to us to bring the new innovation in the industry, to try to bring the acceptance in social equality through our work, through our workshops. And this is what we want to build. We want to build more acceptance. And the only agenda which Women for World has, everyone, is to share to the world that a job should be given to people on the basis of their qualifications and not on the basis of their gender. That's it. And once we acquire that, we are ready to move ahead. And last but not the least, technology. This pandemic made us realize what amazing impact technology has. Today, we all are sitting in different parts of the world. You are sitting in your house, I'm sitting in my house. Still, we are feeling connected and we're feeling like we're sitting in front of each other, all thanks to technology. So technology is actually a great bridge to mold your challenges into opportunities. And this technology helped Women for World to run a sustainable business in this pandemic when we started operating virtual tours. A kind of concept which when I told to some people in the industry, they were like, why are you even getting into this trend? This is not going to last forever. And today I feel so honored to share that we have done around 400 plus virtual tours. We have a community of 700 people from all around the world who are connected to us virtually, and we are expanding the horizons of Women for World all around the world through virtual tours and through the help of the technology. I feel very honored to share that we were happy to give workshops to students from all around India, around 100 plus students. We have got around 500 plus reviews, and the aim Women for World has, and what we want to achieve through virtual tours and through different kind of experiences like that, is to bring people closer to our culture, is to bring people one step closer to our communities, is to change the misconceptions about our country and to show the brighter side of our culture, to show the brighter side of our country, and to welcome people with open heart and to tell them that it is safe to travel to India. You just have to find the right people whom you should travel with, and you should create experiences, or you should be in the experiences that can change your life. And that is what the entire case study of Women for World is based on, that we are trying to work on the experiences and we are trying to bring these experiences so that it can change the life of the people for good and educate them on the real tourism and the benefit this tourism can give them. Yes, so this brings us to the end of this presentation. And yes, thank you so much, Meg, for having me here. And I hope it was helpful for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Komal. That was fascinating and inspiring. And I'm reminded of a quote from one of the ancients, Pindar, who said, "Know what you are and be such." And I think that in order for all of us to be effective as humans and as cultural ambassadors, we have to know what our own strengths are. And then we have to know who our external community is and align accordingly, because we cannot be all things to all people. So that was terrific. And I'd now like to start a discussion amongst the panelists. And my question to each member is, can you please share your vision for the SDGs in 2030, which is the target date for achievement of these goals? And so Fergus, can we start with you? Can you share your projection for the SDGs in 2030?
Sure, Meg. Thank you again for the question. And, I think that it's interesting in the sense that many communities and many different sectors of the society embrace and adapt the goals differently. Certainly in terms of the work that ECOMOS is doing with the 11.4, which is cultural heritage, one of the key targets for that. They've been working with a number of partners to try and champion that. The problem is that with 175 targets and 135 targets, 175 indicators, and 17 goals, that's a lot to try and address. And you can imagine that trying to, being comprehensive or specific, it's not always easy. And so to that end, what I can say is that with the SDGs and recognizing those different aspects and the way that they are embraced, by 2030, you'll see, some organizations, some countries, some municipalities, some other different entities will be further ahead because they've embraced different facets of sustainability, and hopefully ones that touch upon economy, environment, the social aspects, and culture, all four of the different pillars. And I think that by at least trying to strive for them and try to embrace them at the same time, that at least, there's an intention to try and ensure that there's a longer term vision for what you're trying to achieve in terms of the benefits to your community, the benefits to, dealing with various environmental and social issues, but also at the same time, recognizing that there are longer term issues down the road that this can hopefully get communities prepared for, particularly climate change. So again, my vision for 2030 is, embrace it if you can, recognize it's a roadmap, recognize that there's different levels of application, and keep trying to look beyond 2030 towards climate change and other aspects we'll be certainly dealing with in our lifetimes.
Thank you, Fergus. That was very insightful. Amitava, would you like to share your projections?
Yeah, certainly. As I come from India, which is a huge country, and the challenges are different, I think, and also I visit abroad. I was part of the MDG evaluation team when it was going on in Guangzhou, where culture got introduced. But my point is that, it's very important to see before 2030 that how much we have progressed using culture and economy and culture and sustainable goals. Because we put a goal, but where are the actions? I think that's very important. Where are the case studies? To do an evaluation to ensure that culture has a potential as driver of development. I've proven it in the last 20 years. But the point is, it needs to be rolled out. Now, when I see that, any government or anyone, any planners, they say we are providing a training for 5 days on entrepreneurship. entrepreneurship is not a 5 days of training. Now, this ticking activity has to stop. And, entrepreneurship is not anything like that. Similarly, you can't teach somebody on culture as a driving tool just like that. You have to take them to the field, make them understand. And you need a lot of social entrepreneurs who will be, somebody asked me that, can you take up for whole India? I mean, come on. I mean, this is not something so easy. One has to understand that within it needs the local people who has appreciation of their culture. My attachment to Bengal, or let's say western part of Rajasthan or Goa, is too high. And that's why I spend time there. But I may not have any knowledge on Kerala art forms. And I was invited by Hungary government to see the Roma in Transylvania. Fabulous, wonderful. And they lost their entire culture. Whereas all the Bartok and all the great musicians, the collectors, they collected the music from there. But if we don't do anything, in that case, they are all leaving for migration. That's very important as labor. And world will call them unskilled daily labor. Firstly, appreciate it is a skill. And then let's take it one by one into the development series. And so my guess is 2030, there is no option. World has to come out of poverty, period. And if we have to do that, in that case, I think much more stricter actions are required. If we cannot do that, then other factors will not much make a difference.
Thank you, Amitava. That was very insightful and I think inspiring. And Komal, would you like to, I have to say that Sanne needed to depart for another commitment. So unfortunately, we won't be able to hear her views on this. But Komal, please tell us your views. I think Kamal's screen might be frozen. I will take the liberty of sharing my view on the topic. And that is that I am a student of history. And if I look back in time, there were two catalysts that drove the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment. And those two major factors were commerce on a large scale via a very well-established network, one of which we know as the Silk Road. And the other was the Black Death, the plague. Those two developments changed the world because they changed the way people thought, and they affected great movement of people and great exchange among cultures. And so my prognosis is that we have been through 2 years that have served as a catalyst for us to rethink ourselves, how the world operates and how we interrelate with each other. And that because of this dark period of the last couple of years, we will emerge with greater insights and greater motivation and better ideas on how to go forth and how to accomplish the 17 SDGs. And I definitely concur with Fergus's perspective that this is an ongoing endeavor, ad infinitum. But that doesn't mean that we can't take advantage of the opportunity that the last 2 years has presented us to think and to ponder and to change and improve. And so with that, I believe the formal part of our presentation is over. And Mahendar, I think that you were planning to take a few questions from attendees. If you like to do that, I will turn the dais over to you.
Yes, please, I invite Mr. Suneet to take a questions. I think a few questions are there in the chat box. Unfortunately, yeah, there was a question to Mr. Amitava, but he has already answered. I don't know if you would like to answer once again. I think it's not necessary. I don't know. Then we had a question to Sanne. Unfortunately, Sanne is not there. Yeah, I have a question to Amitava. What is the scope for the students to enter into the social entrepreneurship in the cultural heritage sector?
I think all the scopes are there because, see, there are three interesting things I must mention. If there is a problem, there is an opportunity. And if there is an opportunity, it's an opportunity for an entrepreneur to solve the problem. So India is gold mine as far as heritage is concerned. And heritage has two parts, tangible heritage and intangible heritage. And so let's not think heritage and culture. You know, culture is a heritage. Now, so it is very important that the students, the youth, looks at their own thing and where is the possibility. See, in IIT, a very important thing used to be taught to us, that if the process is good, product will be good. If the product goes wrong, don't blame the product, check the process. I think that's a very, very important part. And in LSE, I learned another thing. Research is not about what, research is about why. So if we actually add these three, you will get to see what is entrepreneurship and why it is required and why I'm taking that step. Where is the visualization? What do I want to solve the problem? And if we want to solve a problem, automatically things will evolve and then business will emerge. And here we are talking of that, you know, a social, what is a social entrepreneurship and an entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship where profit comes to you. Social entrepreneurship where profit is shared with the community. So it's a very, very important term that, you know, even a long time back in when the VCs, these venture capitalists used to come first time in Silicon Valley, one of them gave a presentation that generate resources was what, share resources was what Karl Marx said. And he said, I only added generate resources and then share it. I think Karl Marx also mentioned that because it's very important. Unless you generate resources, how can you share it? Now, how you share it is the question of social entrepreneurship. But generate resources is a question of entrepreneurship. So this is a very important area, solve problem. So students must take up different areas and of their interest and come out for solving entrepreneurship is a way to on that cultural tourism part, because there are lots of communities, as Komal beautifully presented her presentation, that, you know, and I'm sure many of the students will get motivated. So these sort of things, and as Meg rightly pointed out, that, you know, it is important to visualize 2030. Where do we reach and how do we reach? And who will give the case studies? Only the students today in 3 to 4 years time will come out with the case studies. Why can't we think of strengthening the creative economy when we have so much of ICH? I think that's where the entrepreneurship needs to lead. See, 25 years back, IT was an important driver. 1994, America faced the worst economic downfall in recent times. 1994, every house in California was almost written sold, getting sold. Like they want to sell it. And the economy was down. Even the American government was closed for about 21, 22 days. From there, the IT took it where California became 11th rich amongst all the countries. Forget, it's just a state. But California's economy was 11 within the country. I think that's the power of the innovation. I will not say only IT. I think this time it is needed that the next innovation 25 years phase is over. Otherwise, we still belong to that old economic theory of land, labor, and capital. Those are not valid today. Post-internet, things have to change. So rather than reading a book, write.
Okay, thank you, Amitava. Yeah, the next question is from Dr. Neeraj Gohel. But how tourist experiences can lead to cultural sustainability? but anyone can answer this question.
I think that I'll give you an example. Thank you for the question. In Canada in particular, we have many groups of Indigenous peoples across the country, much like you have tribals in India. And, you know, it's very much in the sense that with Indigenous peoples, they have different types of cultural expression, tangible and intangible. And, you know, much of the knowledge and the impression that we have is shaped by film and histories that are not quite correct. Let's just say that. I'm old enough to know that certain Westerns, as we call them, have a different expression or interpretation of what it was like to be what they called Indians, of course, not from Asia, but Indians in North America. And I think what the interesting aspect is that now with the advent of Aboriginal or Indigenous tourism in Canada, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries, it's given that opportunity to validate and present culture in a way that is true to the people who live there, their traditions and their activities that they undertake on a day-to-day basis. And where there had not been previous opportunity in the past, you know, as Amitava has indicated, there was a problem in terms of low income, lack of jobs, and other sort of aspects. But tourism created that opportunity to be entrepreneurial, using culture as the base and foundation. And at the same time, as a result of this sort of activity, you started seeing a retrenchment where languages that were lost are suddenly being learned again, where different sorts of expressions of theater, music, arts are again being learned again, and they're being modified and adapted in new ways. But that is the power of tourism, because the fact that someone from outside is coming to your place and saying, this is important, this is interesting, this is something that I want to know and I want to learn about. And I think that's a really important sort of dynamic and expression to focus on.
That's great, Fergus. I'll actually dive in and answer this question because I think it's a really important one. There are two sides of this equation. There are the communities, and then there is the traveler. And as I understood the question, you know, that is, what is the traveler's role in contributing to cultural sustainability? And I'll share with you a new initiative that I'm launching with my co-founder, Mahima Gopal, who is my former intern. And together, she and I are in the process of launching a new platform called Flip the Lens. And the point of this digital enterprise is to partner tourists with guides and with cultural standard bearers or cultural creators to form a trio who work together to create mini documentaries about cultural heritage, and they work together, they collaborate, they conceive of the concept for a short film. They do the filming together. The guide has the role, which in journalism, the spheres of journalism is known as a fixer. And it's not a great term, but basically it means they kind of co-produce what a journalist, say from the BBC, will present as their news story. And so the idea here is to move the model of tourist as being at the zoo and observing people to becoming not just an experiencer, but to become a co-creator of a documentary that represents authentically and accurately the culture of a host community. And the role of a guide in this is very important because they have to validate the authenticity of the video. And to me, this is essential that, and this speaks to what Amitava spoke of, which is, you know, right now in this Instagram world we're in, there are misperceptions created by images. And so to bring together tourists and host communities to create authentic representations of culture that can then be shared on the Flip the Lens YouTube channel. I think of it as kind of like a BuzzFeed with BBC-like content. So rather than, videos of cats doing crazy things, there will be a channel that features short, accurate depictions of cultures of the world created by a partnership between travelers and host communities. So that is one way that I think tourists can be engaged in being part of preserving and promoting and sustaining culture. I don't know, Komal, are you able to respond?
Meg, if I may, I want to
Yes.
say, just add one thing, is that here in ICH-based tourism, we are talking of a very inclusive tourism. It actually includes all the people in that village, the practitioners, as well as the traveler becomes a party to it. And when they experience a culture, it is an authentic experience, and they have every right to like it or not like it, express it, but see it, and then create an opinion. And I have gone through, because, it all started from zero, and now it is this. So, it is a journey. And the best part is, if I say that traveler is the biggest catalyst in developing a destination, because that is the first level of recognition and pride bringing to the village artist and helps them to improve their art forms. So when we say safeguarding the art forms, it has actually created a big role by the travelers themselves. And this is very important. The traveler becomes the word of mouth, and the relationship they get developed with the artist and the practice. So they write a blog mentioning everything, and that's how the local stakeholders come in. Actually, I've seen local stakeholders come in later on. First thing comes out is a traveler. And so that's why it's a powerful tool is traveler. And when traveler goes through that experiences, shares with his or her friends in everywhere, it makes a hell lot of difference, because that's the first level of knowledge comes out. So true inclusive participative development in a such destination. So tourism in this particular thing is not only experiential, but also a big influencer in the local economy.
Thank you, Amitava. Well said. Komal, would you like to share your thoughts?
I can't agree more to Amitava sir on it, because this is what I personally believe in, that participation is really important, and that is what educates people about the cultural heritage and the sustainability of the culture. But how you as a community or a travel brand make sure that your travelers, wherever you're taking them, they are respecting the community and making sure that the culture stays intact. I can talk on that perspective. This is what we are working on, to train our entire team so that whoever travelers are traveling with us, they should know where they're going. They should know the cultural differences. They should already be educated about how a culture is, how different it is, and how respected how much respect you have to give to them. There's a very thin line, Meg, which I always talk about, and which is never talked about. We always talk about cultural sustainability. We always talk about sustaining the cultures, but we never mention on the respect which we, like the tourism activities and the relation with the culture. But there's a very thin line, which we as travel brands, as travel companies, travel operators have to mention, that there's a very margin line which a traveler should never cross, so that the culture stays intact, so that even if they're involved into the culture, they maintain that boundary of respect around the culture, around the people. And this makes sure, this is what we work on, so that the culture stays intact and sustainable. Now, for example, when we went to Javai, at that time, nobody used to take people to Javai. And we were the first group that went there, and the culture was completely different. And it was a shock for even Indian students to go there and experience that kind of culture. And they had a lot of questions. But the best part was that our guide already educated the travelers before on what they can expect there and how they have to treat those people, or what can be done so that the culture stays intact and they feel comfortable in getting involved with the travelers. So as mentioned by each one of you, I just want to say that as travel operators, or if you're planning to be a social entrepreneur or any kind of entrepreneur, you have to maintain that thin line so that the communities feel comfortable to collaborate with you so that you can take your tourists there and you can improve the entire place and, like help it develop and grow.
That's very well said, Komal. And I will just, I'd like to address a piece of what you said. There's a lot of talk in tourism now about the right kind of tourist. And, I do believe there is a right kind of tourist, and that is determined by the community. And it is the responsibility of the community to identify who their right kind of tourist is, and then to create an infrastructure that enables them to attract such people and to perhaps deflect those travelers that don't meet that criteria. And with Flip the Lens, we have created a traveler pledge where we have 4 values that we ask participants to make a commitment to. And just to share a couple of those, one is that they agree to do some research on the destination before they travel to the destination, and that they know something about the customs, and that they, for example, know how to say please and thank you in the language of their host community, and that they are to go with humility, that they are there to learn. I think that there are many ways to look at things, but people need to understand that their way is not the only way. And to my way of thinking, the whole point of travel is to learn. And so I think there are ways to establish the guidelines for the relationship with the traveler. And I see this as an area where tourism really needs to step up to the plate. And if they don't like the kind of travelers they're attracting, then they do have the power to do something about that if they think creatively.
That's right. Can't agree more to it, Meg. Thank you so much for sharing it.
I see that we have another question here about how tourism can contribute to the cultural homogenization of certain tourist destinations and what steps we can take to keep it under control. And I'll just answer this briefly and then ask others to do the same. But my personal belief is that there needs to be a 2-part equation, that tourism celebrates our unique differences and our shared humanity. And so that people within the community establish the guidelines for their community on how they preserve traditions and also evolve with the times. Because my understanding of UNESCO's definition of intangible cultural heritage is that it does need to evolve. It needs to be alive and elastic, while at the same time, maintaining certain characteristics that make it intangible. So I don't know if that answers the question, but Fergus, would you like to chime in on that?
Sure. Thank you, Megan. Thank you for giving that initial solid response to it. I think that especially in the past 20, 25 years, you're seeing the power of the internet in terms of the global communications and the global sort of aspirations and perspective that has been shared with different parts of the world. And, where it used to take months or weeks for a letter to be transmitted sometimes, or communications in a newspaper, to suddenly, to convey information to us. Now it's done instantaneously. It's also done with different perspectives, some of which we don't always agree with, and so we're dealing with that in Canada right now. But there are circumstances where you could argue that this global sort of communications platform, social media, etc., are pressing down on local cultures. One of the things that I'd argue, though, and this is what you're showing with Flip the Lens, is the fact that global cultures can push back because those platforms weren't always there. Those opportunities to market, those opportunities to promote, those opportunities to showcase, and those opportunities to share. I think it's that opportunity to push back and to really to represent cultures in a way that you can suddenly see how different types of goods or artifacts are made, how music is portrayed, or theater, or different other elements that otherwise you would not be able to connect with. The power of video, the power of audio. So yes, culture does evolve. It doesn't always evolve the way that we want to, but at the same time, we have a choice, and we have an intention and initiative to try and say, look, we can either stand here and absorb it all, or we can find our own route, our own way to push back and make our own path through this evolution.
Thank you, Fergus. Amitava, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, this is a powerful question, and it is important to understand that in the world we are here to celebrate the cultural pluralism and diversity, and I think the tourism gives a fantastic tool to travel, experience, and celebrate the same. Now, when you think of livelihood and people talk about alternative livelihood, that means alternatives need to be shown, need to be there, need to be evolved. Similarly, diversity and pluralism, if we really champion it, I think that will rule the world. And as I come from a country which every 100 miles, character changes. Even in one state, please don't think one language. Our best part is there are so many languages and we all are connected with the unity in diversity. So tourism is the best part. For the last 2 years, there is no international visitor. But for the last 2 years, our villages made the most of business because the domestic travelers are actually visiting all the villages. So rather than outbound, they are actually now inbound. They are getting to know their own country. And that's how a small village called Charida in Purulia, which used to be branded as Maoist place 10 years back, actually sells rupees 2 million Indian rupees every day. They make chow mask. And chow is the 2010 UNESCO Heritage ICH. And so, this is important. All of our cultures have the potential to be recognized, and as well as cultural tourism can do that. So I think the more we promote different cultural tourism, I think we will be able to contribute more to this.
Thank you, Amitava. I believe we've come to time to close the program. I'd like to thank each of the panelists, Fergus, Amitava, Sanne, and Komal. It was a privilege to be here with you and to hear your views. And Mahendar, so wonderful to collaborate with you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Fergus and Amitav and Komal and other participants.
Thank you. Thank you, all the entire audience. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you. We hope to see you all physically in the next conference, probably in the end of this year or next year. I think that would make more impact on the audience and particularly to our students.
Sure.
Thank you.
And also, I will just say you're welcome to join us tomorrow morning at, I believe, 7 p.m. India time, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a panel on digital tourism and the SDGs. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a very
Thanks,
helpful
Meg and
session.
Fergus.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's-
National Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, nurturing excellence, serving success.